folks. Welcome back to another episode of the BoomBastiCAST. And there ain't quite anything as American as that, except for maybe one thing: American Splendor. You know what I mean? The Paul Giamatti masterpiece of independent cinema of art. You know, and Harvey Pekar. You know, the cartoonist, graphic novelist, if you will, of American Splendor. You know, masterpiece of a film. You know what I mean? We got our friend Toby Radloff, which was a part of the film, and knew Harvey, joining us in a little bit for the show. Toby is a legendary dude within himself. You know what I mean? From the Killer Nerd films, he was working on MTV. You know, the Genuine Nerd documentary, classic stuff. Toby's the man. Very close friend of the Boombastic folk. He's been a part of 2 Christmas specials, I believe, and always an all-around good dude. You know what I mean? Always good to have Tobe on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
Alex, I know you're a big fan of Paul Giamatti.
Oh, I love Paul. Hopefully, one of these days, get a chance to actually talk to him and express how much I love him. What I love is about American Splendor, which I think really makes it stand heads above a lot of other independent films,
Yeah,
is the fact that you'll have a movie like, for example, Aaron Brockovich,
yeah,
about a real person, and then you'll have Julia Roberts in a dining scene with the real Aaron Brockovich playing a waitress. But in this, I mean, you had the real Harvey Pekar, you had the real Toby Radloff in
yeah.
there. Real Harvey Pekar, I mean, does
Peacock.
the narration as the narrator of the piece, while
Yeah,
you had, Paul Giamatti going through the motions. You also got actual footage of him on David Letterman, which is another thing I appreciated. I
yeah,
mean, other than the very last one where they cheated it, so it was definitely looks like behind the scenes, and you see Paul Giamatti playing Harvey Pekar talking to a David Letterman person playing David Letterman.
yeah,
But what I appreciate is that this is a film that is about someone who's real,
yeah.
that they actually actively bring him into the story itself. I mean, it's his story,
Right.
and that's one thing I really appreciated about it, because so many other people could just go with, well, we got Paul Giamatti, we got Judah Freelander, they'll play the roles, and we'll play it as a regular narrative biopic, and we'll go from there. But
Yeah.
I mean, seeing Harvey Pekar's wife, and then of course the retirement scene at the end, it was nice to actually feel like those that the story was about actually had, you know, had something to say, actually was a part of the film, other than, well, this is our story, but we're not a part of the actual production of this film.
Right.
Yeah, I
Where's
mean,
that?
that's one of the things I really appreciate about the movie. I mean, I love Paul Giamatti and Judah Freelander both did great jobs in this film,
Hmm.
but having the actual Harvey Pekar narrated, I thought was a stroke of genius.
Yeah, the way they did have EP car, it's quite a like. I remember like this movie popping off. It was like early 2000, 2003, of course, because we got 2023 20th anniversary. Uh,
Yeah,
like I remember it was a big deal in independent arts that year, going off. I believe it took awards at Sundance and such, and that was kind of like a good era. That was around the time that I was like attempting to get into film. So like all those art films that came about were catching my eye. You know, all those films that were Sundance who were all catching my eye and catching my attention. I feel like that was like probably around the birth, probably the really first big starring role for Giamatti. I could be wrong. I
yeah. I mean, people will always say Sideways is the movie that really put Paul Giamatti, like I would say, in the forefront of people's minds.
yeah,
But American Splendor, I think, was the definitely, if it was in the first, it was definitely the first notable film that he was in.
Like
And
him playing Pig Vomit in Howard Stern's Private Parts, at least for me being a comedy fan and a fan of the radio show, that was big for me. I always took note of him because he was so great in that role of Pig Vomit, Stern's boss. Played it perfectly. But yeah, Giamatti, he was also in Lady in the Water around this time, I think, which kind of, the film wasn't that fantastic, but it was a big move. Everybody went to go see it because it was like, I think it might have been the first kind of almost disappointment from Night Shyamalan, but it was a lot of people went to go see it. Maybe The Village was, I don't know. They were right around the
well,
same
The
part.
Village came out first. Here's the thing about M. Night Shyamalan. I enjoy his work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying everything he does is 100% great.
Okay.
I actually enjoyed The Village. A lot of people gave it shit. And if anyone's watched anything that M. Night Shyamalan has done, they should expect kind of the rug being pulled under. But I think a lot of people were upset that they were expecting a monster movie and they got a more of a personal society drama about, the failings of the society we live in right now. Which,
Yeah.
if you look at it that way, I liked it. I thought it was really well done. Honestly, best performance of Bryce Dallas Howard, as far as I'm concerned.
We can almost end this episode with news like that. You know what I mean? But we're not going to do that. We're going to carry on. We're going to find the strength to carry on forward. We're going to get into some American splendor. You know what I mean? We're going to get some fantastic stuff getting down. If you're not a fan of the film, this might not be your cup of tea. If you've never seen the film, go see the film. You'll like it. It's a good flick. The formatting of film, like your typical storytelling formula, is kind of, they move away from that, which I got to appreciate. Whenever a film does that, I always take note. Like you were saying before about the mixing, just swapping up of character and real people, I thought it was really well done. And yeah, for shizzle. So
Well,
I get, yeah,
I mean, it's actually funny if you think about it. That I think American Splendor is definitely one of the best comic book movies out there. And of course, I mean, I know that a lot of people probably don't even think of it or consider it, but I mean, the entire American Splendor comic book is pretty much Harvey Pekar, talking about his life,
yeah,
and that's what he does in the movie. And the fact is that if you want to get even more artistic
yeah,
about, I mean, Harvey Pekar, he wrote the stories, but he had an illustrator, draw it out, draw out the pictures because he himself he could only do like stick figures. He wasn't a great artist, but he was a good storyteller.
our
Eh,
crumb,
yeah, Art Crumb
legendary.
did the illustration. Look at this film as kind of an extension of the comic book.
Yes,
He's narrating the story, but you have Paul Giamatti as the illustration of him. So, in essence, it is a live action comic book telling. I think it's really good.
yeah. No, I agree with that. So with that, without any further ado, he's about to bring Toby Radloff into the BoomBastiCAST. I think to our show for the very first time at the BBC, but he's been all over the Boombastic Media Network, and definitely a friend of the show and a friend of the family, and by golly, almost a family member himself, if I would be so bold to say such a thing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Toby Radloff. Woo!
And I just clicked got it.
We done got it. Toby,
Yeah,
always a pleasure
got
to
it.
see you. Always a pleasure to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Alex.
anytime.
We were just talking about records. I could go on for days about record talk. I know Toby could as well, but I know Alex could not, so we'll be kind to Alex.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm record illiterate.
It's okay. It's all right. We'll get you there. We'll fix you up. Get you to good position. But we've gathered here today to talk about a film Toby was heavily a part of it. He was a part of the film, but the gentleman that it was based on, Harvey Pekar, was just like legendary status. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore to kind of tell the story. If
I
anybody
can't
has
believe it's been 13 years since he passed.
yeah, very sad. But you know, he's super talented dude. The American Splendor graphic novel, as well as many other. He was all himself was also a collector of records, which I
Yes.
appreciate.
I mean, a lot of records I have gotten from Harvey.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
Harvey used to sell records at the VA hospital, like to some of the co-workers. But a lot of the records he was selling were like R&B and jazz stuff, because that was what Harvey was pretty much into.
Yeah. Yeah,
he used to write for like Downbeat magazine and other jazz publications, and then he also, you know, he also had like a gig with Verve Records, which used to be part of MGM, but I think it became part of Polygram, or was now Universal Music Republic Records.
Yeah.
And he was like writing liner notes for jazz albums in the few years before he passed away for Verve Records.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I knew he, you know, with the film and such, I knew he was really big in the records. But you guys met at work, like at work, right?
Yes, I got hired at the VA in December of 1980, and that was where I first met Harvey.
You guys.
Now I'm in my 42nd year there, and eventually I'm going to be planning my retirement.
I picture a scene like in the movie with cake. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that was shot in the actual place?
It was shot actually, most of the scenes were shot at Lakewood Hospital, which is a hospital in Lakewood, Ohio, and they filmed it in the file room there, mainly because one, the VA would not allow the film crew in there at the VA hospital.
Yeah.
And two, at that time, the record was moving from one location to another, and it was in a building that was recently opened after, you know, being under construction for a few years. It was like an addition to the building, and they moved the medical records to the basement there. And this was like also around the time that they were getting ready to phase out paper medical records in favor of medical records being online.
Yeah. It
so
was
because the paper medical records are sort of like on borrowed time by the time the record room.
And do they get rid of the you know, you can't save the records in music, you know, that you can't just let it all be digital, because if one day that digital was to go away, where's the music and where are the files, you know?
Right. I mean? and don't count on the cloud, if you know what I mean.
Never.
Now, say if a nuclear war should happen, it's by everything.
There'll be a different cloud you're going to worry about at that point.
Everyone's record collections and everyone's music in the cloud.
If you had a good record collection and a nuclear war happened, you might be able to surround yourself with enough vinyl that if the heat hits it the right way, it will melt into a cube, protecting you from the nuclear stuff.
It could work, who knows?
It's almost possible.
And I'll try to shield the 2 iPods I have and the hard drive that I have the music on to keep that preserved.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all for the preserving. You're talking about how you like to kind of do the system where you take the vinyl and put it on MP3 format for like.
Yeah, I got like an Ion turntable I have hooked to the computer. The Ion is sort of like a step above a Crosley.
Yeah.
This one's got like a 12-inch platter on it rather than the little platter on the cruiser. And I've used this thing for about 6 or 7 years to copy 33s, 45s, and 78s over to iTunes. But with the 78s, I use like I think they call it Audacity. That's the name of the program.
Yeah.
And I would play the 78 at 45 RPM, because it's only a 33 and 45 turntable. And then I would use the Audacity to change the speed back to 78 when I put it on iTunes.
Okay. That's way more involved than I thought it was. I thought it was
pretty much involved to because used to be I used something called Easy Vinyl and Tape Converter, which automatically put it onto iTunes. But apparently Apple changed their iTunes software so the Easy Vinyl tape couldn't directly copy it. I'd have to go through a few more steps to put it on the iTunes. It was also around the time that Apple was phasing out iPods in favor of iPhones and iPads.
Yeah. They probably just want you to pay more money and then they'll let you do it. It's probably one of those deals.
Yes, because it says iTunes is still around. I mean, I could still copy music, but it said it's like a few more steps, and it's been like a few years since I actually put a record on the iTunes, and then the Ion also had like a auxiliary jack on it, and I hooked the Sony Walkman to it, and I used to copy cassettes onto the iTunes.
Crafty, and it sounds good. The record will sound good.
I had like a cable I hooked between the aux jack and the turntable and the Walkman to do that.
And when you convert it over, it'll sound good, or
it sounds good. Yeah, I just have to make sure I got fresh batteries.
Yeah.
In the Walkman in order to do it.
Word.
It was a better model. It was a better model of Sony Walkman. So it did come out good.
I remember when the Sony Walkman hit the streets, it was one of the biggest things of all time. You had the yellow sport one and you had the regular one.
Yeah.
That was big. Then the Sony Discman, which was like everybody wanted them, but they were so terrible. Like if you move them a little bit, like the CD skips, it was like awful.
Yeah. Like this is actually what I used.
Hell yeah.
And this is like the little cable I hooked up to it.
Look at this
like a little cable I hooked up to it to hook it to the turntable.
Yeah, I got an old one here too.
Yeah.
This is like first generation Sony Walkman type deal. I don't know.
This one I think is from like the 90s. It still works.
Yeah, it's got the W. I got the W on this.
Yeah.
I got the W on my Discman from back in the day.
Yeah. It looks like one from a thrift shop. That Walkman, that Discman.
Yeah, it's so surprising. Like the Discman and the whole walking CD player thing was like you had to like walk with it. I remember having to walk with it like almost like within your hand. It couldn't be at the angle or anything, or it would like have issues. At least mine would.
Yeah, it would.
But it's but then again, it's cumbersome to carry CDs and cassettes with you.
Yeah.
And so like when you're walking with an iPod, you don't have to worry about like the one that I have is like a 64 gigabit unit.
Yeah.
Holds like 17,000 songs.
Yeah, I had an iPod. I just do like Spotify nowadays, but I had an iPod for a while. I haven't updated mine. Every time I get a phone, I should probably put because I have so much music. But yeah, we'll see.
There's eventually, like with my iTunes, I eventually got to get rid of all the duplicates because I had because one time I accidentally erased my hard drive. I had like an external hard drive that I had the songs on. I accidentally erased it. And there was like a program that I had downloaded that allowed me to transfer music from the iPod back onto the hard drive.
Yeah.
I did that, and I copied the music from the two iPods that I have. One is like a first generation that had the wheel on it, the round control, and the other's a iPod Touch.
Yeah.
That's a 64 gig unit. And I copied the music that was on both of those iPods. And then what I got to do, it's going to take like maybe a couple days for me to do it, just sitting all day to get rid of all the duplicate songs. And I never really got around to doing it. So I'm just basically leaving the songs alone that are on the two iPods right now.
Yeah. Well, be careful with that, because I had an issue with the iPod once where I got duplicates and they all played, and I went through and I deleted the duplicate side, and then when I went back to the album, I deleted some of the good songs somehow, So like the album would be incomplete where it'd be the gaps, you know what I mean, which was unfortunate. And I lost songs. Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, then I got to be careful because I want to make sure that I have the song. You know, I mean, the song could still be on the hard drive, but I'm just getting rid of the dupes on the iTunes on the screen.
Yeah.
As long as it won't erase it from the hard drive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing because the issue I had, and I had a lot of CDs that I used to like shoot underground hip hop and rock shows in our city. So like a lot of those bands that you don't really, you can't get that stuff. I had like all that stuff on CD at some point, and I put it on. I got half of it in the physical form, and then all of it was on digital. But I think some of it got broken up, which was very sad. But I guess
I admit, like a lot of the songs that I have on there, I had downloaded from a pirate site years ago.
Back with like LimeWire.
This was one I don't remember the name of it, but it was I like basically looked up all of the Billboard the top 100 songs of the year every year, I did it like from 1955 all the way to 1990.
Yeah.
Because that's sort of like my range with the music I'm growing up with, because I'm not really much into songs beyond 1990, considering my age, although a lot of good music came from that era.
Yeah.
But as I said, you know, the one program I used put a virus on my computer. And I had to have a friend of mine clean it up.
Yeah.
And I found like another one that did not put a virus on. And that was the one that I used to copy the songs from 55 to 90. And then I had to like record some of them from my record collection, because sometimes they would use either recorded versions or the song would not play in full.
That was like the whole like digital, that, you know, Napster and LimeWire, that's like 20 years old nowadays now, for crying out loud. And what you'd get bit, dude, with some virus for real. You know, I know it's funny because I know with me, and I don't know if Alex ever did the Napster and stuff like that, or the LimeWire, but I would always go on and grab music. And it was so different when you were like a kid, and like when you make the art later in life and you're like, oh, I guess that was like not cool to try and get that.
Yeah, I think I downloaded a few things from.
I think everybody did. Maybe not so much music with Alex, but it's funny.
Yeah, I did download. I don't have anything against music, even though Matt will tell everyone that I hate music.
I like the joke.
But I used to collect a lot of like soundtracks of musicals, that kind of stuff. Just kind of fell out of that. I'm like the old saying goes, like with Matt, that you have to pick and choose what you collect, because if you collect everything, you don't have money for food.
And you look like me, and you look like my background.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Considering how many years I've collected records, I mean, I know to watch my money, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spend all my money on records only to find that I have no money to buy groceries.
Yeah. Would you ever?
And I don't want to put groceries on the credit card.
Yeah.
I was also dealing with credit card debt at the time.
Yeah. Would you sell? Would you ever sell the collection?
If I have to end up in a nursing home or an assisted living, I may have to sell or donate. I mean, I'd sell the good stuff and donate the rest.
That's some classic stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I do have like a number of records in there that are worth money.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah.
You could do a Toby drive.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I could see Toby hosting like a record show. That would be cool. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future. So now you and Harvey you guys kind of linked up with digging on records. You guys were both big fans of records.
Yeah, we went to flea markets, we went to thrift stores, we went to library sales, because Harvey often bought books from estate sales, library sales, flea markets, thrift stores, and then he would resell them. He used to go to this place in Kent that would buy books from him, and then the other place I think was up in Elyria that bought a lot of the paperbacks he found.
Yeah,
that's where it was. Neither of those bookstores are there now. I remember the one in Kent later became a Starbucks.
Yeah. Oh, coffee. People love coffee.
And I think Starbucks later, then I don't remember. I don't know what's in that building now, but I knew it was in a building that had English two-door decorum outside of it.
Yeah. Harvey was an originator of a field of work that nowadays I don't really like nowadays. And the field of work I'm talking about is where, and Toby, I'm sure can feel this. You go into like a thrift store, a Savers, you're looking for good stuff. You'll see people with their phone and they're scanning stuff and they don't want it themselves, but they know if they can get money for it, they're going to buy it. And I hate that because it kills the collector. You know what I mean?
And then also, like with other things, people want to buy stuff because they don't have that much money.
Yeah.
And also because of these, people that resell, the thrift stores realize that, and they try to put eBay pricing on a lot of their items.
Yeah.
We're talking, say, like $20 for a piece of Pyrex.
Yep.
Like for an old Pyrex. Like for an old Pyrex crock pot or something that used to sell for maybe $2 or $3 is now going for like $20 at the Goodwill.
They make crack with the Pyrex cookware, I believe. That's why they, like, for real. I always hear the rappers talking about their Pyrex.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that and maybe that's why Savers upped their price because they knew what they're dealing with. I'd go there in the morning sometimes, and you'd see people with the scanning books. Because that's the beauty of being a collector is like you go in there, you find something that either you've been looking for forever or you find something that you might not have been looking for forever, but this thing goes for like $100 online and here it is for $1 and you could you definitely like it now. You know what I mean? You get it and you're like, oh, victory for the day. And then you see a dude going, whoop, oh, I can get money for that. All right, whoop, that's no money for that. Put that back, whoop, get money for that. And they were like pillaging the dream.
I mean, they're basically picking the lower hanging fruit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. It's sad. It was very. I remember it being.
They're picking the best fruit and they're leaving the other stuff to rot.
It really. It's unfortunate because Savers and stuff like that. I used to get excited. Like you drive by a Savers or something, you go, yeah, man, like there's very possibly I'm going to go in here and find something incredible. And nowadays it gets smaller and smaller, the opportunity of that because of phones.
Especially, like I know the Savers in my area on Monday, everything is half price.
Oh.
You'll probably find them all coming in on Monday to do that stuff, even though Cleveland only has 3 Savers.
Yeah. Savers only gives us a couple half off. You get every Monday. We only get a couple off a year, I think.
Yeah, every Monday. That's the 3 stores are in Cleveland. I think one's in the city of Cleveland, one's in Rocky River, and the others in Willowick.
Savers was like one of my favorite stores because you had books, music, movies, anything, toys, like old toys. I remember we had we do have a paranormal show on the network. I remember they were talking about how, and it kind of spooked me from secondhand stores for a little bit, how they were talking about curses and how like items can have, things traveling with them. And it always made me think after the fact, like, oh, like I've seen a lot of horror movies like this. So maybe there's something to that,
Right. And then even like in my, even like in the 70s and 80s when I was thrifting,
yeah.
There was one time I went into a St. Vincent de Paul store. They had like a box of records sitting on the floor. It must have just come in from a donation. It was like sitting like between, the floor and the employee only area. And I was looking through the box. I found an album by the Ronettes. It was in those boxes, and I knew that the records there were selling for like $1 a piece.
Yeah.
And I grabbed that Ronettes record out of the box, and here some lady is yelling at me because I took the record out of the box. But then again, I went ahead, went to the register with it, paid the $1 what the record usually would sell for. But I had a feeling that sometimes employees would go through the stuff before they even put it on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, especially like things like records. I mean, if a bunch of records get donated and they're sitting in the back room of a thrift shop, I wouldn't be surprised if the employees know people that resell.
Yeah.
And they would go through all the stuff before it is even put out
For sure.
for the public.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, you got like 200 records. You put all the Beatles out, all the Stones out, all the Motown out,
Yeah.
all the rock and roll out, and then leave the Herb Alpert, Itch Miller, and Frank Sinatra for the public.
Right. Yeah, I have a routine whenever I'm going through. Like if I find something dirt cheap that I don't have, of course I grab it. But if I find something dirt cheap that I have, I always for brownie points, I always go and tell the purple selling. I go, you can get a lot more money for that record, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it helps me out. I think it helps me.
And then oftentimes I end up with duplicate records because sometimes I buy something only to realize I've already had a copy. But a lot of times the copy I find is in better shape than the one that I have now. So I keep the one that's in better shape and then redonate the old one.
Yeah. Well, I'll give a shout out Land of Electronics in East Bridgewater, Massachusetts. There's a good team over there. I like those boys. They're nice. But like that's a place, I go whenever I see a record that should be more, I'm like, woo, I'm like, raise it up. I remember I was at the Flea not too long ago and they had a Helter Skelter record, which is from a underground hip hop group that no longer performs. One of Sean Price.
Was it like a cover of the Beatles song?
It was that's where the name comes from. Yeah, the Beatles deal, but it was like a hip hop group, and the dude was selling it for like $10, and that thing's like $100 online all day long. But I have one, luckily. I got it at the flea market for like dirt cheap as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the Flea. I almost went there earlier today. You know what I mean? It's a good spot. So many treasures walking around. If you're going to like secondhand stores and Fleas and stuff, and you're not looking for records, what other type of stuff? You get into toys too, right? I love toys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much into toys or games because I only got so much room in the apartment.
Yeah.
And I did have to get rid of a bunch of knickknacks.
Yeah.
They were just collecting dust.
And get you a big shelf, big wall-size shelf.
Yeah, I know. But as I said, a couple of years ago, I was to move in with my mother.
Yeah.
Because my mother was dealing with kidney failure. And I was like halfway in the process of moving to mom's house. And then mom passes away on New Year's Day of 2022. So I ended up having to move the stuff that I had already moved to mom's house, including all my records and books and DVDs.
Yeah.
Back over to my apartment. Excuse me. And as I said, it was, sort of like hard on me, like with my knees and my back, taking those records up the stairs. I was like using shopping bags to take the records up and down.
Well, I'll tell you now, if you ever need help again, we set this up ahead of time. I will go to Ohio and help you out with a big move or whatever you want to do.
I mean, if I'm ever in a position of moving, I'll let you know.
Let me know, man. And that ain't no BS. I'm down for real. This will be a great. It'll be fun times.
Right, that'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't see myself moving anytime soon, though.
I moved furniture for 4 summers. Wow.
Yeah.
That's me, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
this is physique from.
Like me being 65 years old, I mean, I still look younger than 65, but parts of my body are acting it.
Acting it, I feel you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy deal. Unfortunately, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Alex, How you doing over there, bud?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
So Harvey started adding you into his comics. That was kind of like you were
I think
friendly
that
with
was,
them at at work, and
yeah, a
what?
lot of them were stories we told at work. I first appeared in #9, American Splendor. That was when Harvey was still self-publishing it,
Did you?
and
Did,
and I was featured on the cover of that comic,
hell yeah!
and I think that came out in '83.
As a collector, did you keep up with? Did you collect the comics he was releasing? Were you like interested
I
from the?
got like the whole run of his self-released books, and he did manage to finally give me a #1.
Wow, awesome! That's cool.
Yeah, he did give me a #1 later on. He gave me like everything from 2 up, but later on he did manage to find a #1 to give to me.
You got friends
So
in
I got
high
like the whole
places.
run. I got like the whole run of the self-published ones.
That's awesome. That's crazy. That's history. You know what I
Pardon
mean?
my coughing.
No, I do it myself. It's all right. Sometimes it's needed. You know what I mean?
That's what coffee is for, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you gotta melt it down with some hot coffee. That's what I do.
Yeah,
Lava life.
warm coffee in this case because I made that cup half an hour ago.
Yeah. Now when he started to kind of get successful with it, did the people in work kind of show him respect for it, or like I know sometimes?
Everyone did take notice, and as I
Yeah,
said, the comic books got word of mouth. That's basically how Harvey ended up on David Letterman, and how I ended up on MTV.
so yeah, I wanted to get into that. I know that Harvey went on Letterman, and he has some of the most legendary interviews out there. If anybody hasn't seen them or heard them, I believe they're all on YouTube. I mean, definitely see the flick that they go into it heavy into the movie. There's some real life footage from Letterman and him in the movie, but they're out there, and yeah. So like, so MTV approached you from you the kind of the success of the
Yeah, they
comic.
sent a camera crew to work because of my work to do something on Harvey. Harvey introduced me to the film crew, the
Yeah,
MTV crew, and I appeared like in a number of scenes. I appeared like about 3 or 4 segments where a team from New York came in,
yeah.
and then at a Superman convention, met Wayne Allen Harold for the first time. This was back in 1988.
You
And
like a
then
because you were like an MTV VJ kind of deal for a little bit.
sort of, I was like talking about how I felt, genuine nerd. And then from there, Wayne Allen Harold did a number, and Mark Bosco did a number of segments that ran, like I think between 88 and early 1990.
Yeah.
And then they ended, and then the last one was, I think, like like the summer of '91 when Killer Nerd came out.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Killer Nerds classic. Now the that was a weird before we leave the MTV thing, that was like a very interesting time with MTV, like when they started to take off. And I always remember Daniel Johnston, the folk singer. He kind of came from that era too, because they found him. They it was a music festival or something like that, and
I
like
think so, yeah.
the
I
camera
mean,
crew,
there
yeah,
used to be a thing because Harvey lived near the Coventry Road area of Cleveland Heights, Ohio,
yeah,
and Coventry is sort of like a hippie, ultra liberal type area.
yeah,
It was like probably more so in the '80s, in the '70s and '80s than what it is now. Because I mean, like Coventry today, you got like a number of vacant storefronts, but it
yeah,
was like a hopping area, like a busy hopping area back in the '70s, '80s, and early '90s, and that was like the era where Harvey was doing a lot of his stories.
yeah. It was. Do you have any idea what like the the Cleveland underground art scene was like at that time? Like I assume he had to have been like a big ball in the underground. They must have, he must have been a forefront figure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he did manage to get Robert Crumb to do some of his drawings.
Yeah.
Our Crumb did stuff like Fritz the Cat and the Keep on Trucking guy.
Yeah, our
before he
Crumb.
met
Yeah.
Harvey. And he met Crumb in the 60s at a garage sale. And that was like recreated in the movie.
He liked
Crumb
vinyl as
worked
well.
for
Yeah.
American Greetings at the time, and American Greetings is like a Cleveland-based greeting card company. And that was where Crumb worked. And Crumb lived in Cleveland at the time, and that was how him and Harvey met. And they both had a common like for jazz.
Yeah. It's fun how music's tied you guys all together. It's very cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's important.
That's how Crumb did a lot of Harvey's. That's why a lot of those original self-published American Splendor comics are worth money because of the Robert Crumb art.
Yeah, Crumb's very interesting, cool character. He has a Terry Zwigoff, I believe, did a documentary on him called Crumb, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, he's a unique dude. You know what I mean? So they team up and they start really hammering out American Splendor, fucking hammering huge. It's breaking out of Cleveland, getting into the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Starts going on Letterman and stuff. How long of a run was it before the film kind of came into play? Do you remember?
There was talk of doing an American Splendor movie going back to the late 80s. I think one proposal had Alan Sachs, who was the creator. I think he's one of the producers of Welcome Back, Kotter.
Interesting.
To do the movie, but that sort of fell by the wayside, and then there were like a couple other things that went by the wayside as well until Sherry Springer Berman and I think Robert Polsini got involved with it, HBO, and the casting call came about 2 weeks before 9/11/01 happened.
Yeah. With all those earlier renditions, did you ever hear anything of a rumor of who would have played Harvey in like those earlier in films?
Not really. I knew that Paul Giamatti played him
for sure,
but I don't know. I think they wanted to have Steve Buscemi play him at one point, but I don't remember. But I mean, Ghost World, Steve Buscemi did play a Harvey-like character.
He did. Buscemi would have been actually incredible. Now that you say that, that would have been interesting.
I did meet Steve Buscemi up at Sundance, during the screening.
Yeah, how was Steve? Good guy?
He's a nice guy, yeah.
I always hear good things about Steve. That would have been a very interesting casting, and I think he would have done a great job. Paul did fantastic. This is right around the time Paul was kind of really hitting the scene in a big way. He was behind the scenes as a co-star and character, for a long time, not really quite the leading man. And then this kind of showed that he could do it. You know what I mean? That he had what it took, the chops.
Yeah. And then they're like looking at actors to play me, and they ended up getting Judah Friedlander, stand-up comedian, and he appeared like in small parts in a lot of movies.
World champion.
And then Judah has this long stringy hair, and these big glasses. I mean, that's what he looks like now, but he cut his hair and changed his glasses to look like me.
Yeah.
For the American Splendor movie, and then after the movie wrapped, Judah grew his hair long back again.
Yeah. Yeah, this was
because Judah had that hippie-like look.
He did, yeah.
But they made him look nerdy. They made him look like me. I think there was like another actor, I don't remember his name, but he was like on a number of sitcoms and stuff. And I don't remember his name offhand, but they wanted to have him play me at one point as well. I don't recall his name, but Judah had the thing perfect, down pat and perfect.
Yeah.
And Judah and I still keep in touch off and on, and he still looks back at playing me in that movie.
That was the first time I ever remember seeing Judah. It was before 30 Rock, where when he did 30 Rock, it was like he blew up. But like that was the first time I seen him, and he does an incredible job playing you. It's very charming and like sincere and like lovable. Did you guys
Yeah.
talk? Did he meet with you, or did you guys talk
Yeah,
and get together?
we met at a restaurant up at the Renaissance Cleveland Hotel when you were doing the casting.
Yeah.
And it turned out he was a fan of my movies even before we even met.
Hell
And
yeah.
he bought Killer Nerd, and he saw all the old MTV stuff.
Yeah.
So he was familiar with me even before he even met me.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's what I like to hear, man. Yeah, I feel like I think American Splendor probably popped on my radar, and then it probably roughly around the time of the Killer Nerd films too. I was trying to think of which one kind of came into my life first because they were like I was telling Alex before, like when I first started realizing like I want to make films and like getting in there and seeing it was like right around that time, you know what I mean, of like the early 2000s when I was like stepping forward to do such things, and that the movies from that era, especially the artistic ones, because it's kind of more so like what I want to do, they always like stood out to me heavily. And Giamatti was like, I loved him from Private Parts. He was like probably the best part of Private Parts. And
Yeah.
yeah, seeing him come in was it was great. I really think that was the beginning of the Paul Giamatti that everybody knows right
Right.
now.
And then also, like, after I met Judah, I was
Yeah,
like looking up films that he was in, and he played the cameraman in the movie, the movie version of Starsky and Hutch.
yeah,
And I saw Starsky and Hutch and him playing the cameraman. And then he was also in a movie called Wet Hot American Summer,
summer, yeah.
which I think was later made into a TV series for Netflix.
It was, yeah, or Hulu maybe, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That was a great cast, you know.
yeah.
You know, and you got what Sherry and Robert. Are they like they're a directing team? Are they a couple, or are they just two friends that do you know?
Yeah, they were a team. I think they're husband and wife, I believe.
Okay,
I know they later did a movie called Nanny Diaries.
yes,
And and then, as I said, Giamatti later went into, I think he did Sideways. I think he did $1 Million Baby with Clint Eastwood,
yes.
a few other films.
Lady in the Water,
And then
yeah.
he was also in Big Fat Liar,
Yes,
because it was around the time Splendor came out. He was in Big Fat Liar, where he ripped off some kid and then
yeah,
kid pours blue dye in the swimming pool. Paul Giamatti's character takes a swim and then he turns blue.
yeah,
I remember that.
That was a funny movie.
yeah. Yeah, that I remember that because for whatever I think my brother and sister were at the age to see that, and like I remember like Paul Giamatti was the saving grace of that film.
Yeah.
Frankie Muniz didn't do it for me.
Oh, come on. You didn't think Frankie Muniz was the best part of that?
I still don't think so. You know what I mean?
I gotta say one thing I love about American Splendor is,
Yeah,
especially since the big thing now is that every time you turn around, there's another comic book movie, superhero movie, and as far as I'm concerned, there's American Splendor is probably, I think, one of the best comic book adaptations. I know a lot of people probably don't think of it that way, but when yeah you have him narrating it, and then you have Paul Giamatti playing him. I thought that was because, I mean, the whole American Splendor comic book is about his life and his way of looking at the world, and having him doing the narration with Paul Giamatti playing him, and then of course Judah Friedlander playing you. I thought that was a very innovative and fun way of bringing that kind of comic book to life, and I think that it deserves a lot of respect, especially with how they did the like drawings with live action. I
yeah,
thought that was really good.
And then with Judah Friedlander, I also remember, that he does stand up comedy,
Yeah.
and we get together every time. We get together every time. He comes to Cleveland. It was about 3 or 4 times he made a trip to Cleveland. He would appear at Hilarities for his stand-up act. It's a comedy club up on East 4th Street in downtown Cleveland. And whenever he's in town, he would go to thrift stores, flea markets. The one time he was in town, my church was having a rummage sale, and I took Judah there, and he found a few things, including stuff that I had donated, including like a school type cassette player that my grandmother used to use to play her books on tape before she passed away. And I had my name. I think I just wrote the name Radloff, not my name, just Radloff, because my grandmother used it in the nursing home, before she passed.
Yeah.
And I'd get the books on tape from the library for her. And it was that particular, it was like what they call a Caliphone cassette player that they use in schools.
Yeah.
And Judah bought that at the church flea market when I donated it, when we went there. And then from there, we went to the flea market up at the Berea Fairgrounds, where I ran into a guy that I went to high school with. He was like selling stuff with his father. And I mean, the classmate's name is Michael.
Yeah.
And Michael Gorsmeyer, that is his name. And I was good friends with Michael Gorsmeyer in high school. And him and his father had a booth set up at the Berea Fairgrounds flea market. He was saying stuff like records and ceramics and stuff. And I introduced him to Judah. And Judah, I think they had records for sale, and Judah was looking through. I don't think he bought anything from him because most of the records he wasn't interested in. But still, I did introduce him to a friend of mine, and a friend I hadn't seen in years, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Michael Gorsmeyer in years either, so I wonder whatever happened to him. But we were good friends in high school. I graduated from high school in 1977, by the way.
Right before.
And it was interesting because he liked going to thrift stores, and he told me that even when we first interviewed up at the Renaissance Cleveland.
Yeah. I think the majority, some of your comedians come from some money, some of them don't. I think they learn to live on a budget. I think comedy is definitely one of those fields where you learn to live on a budget. So you would love thrift stores and secondhand stores. I think that's cool. They got that keepsake. That's a very cool thing. I appreciate keepsakes like that. So that's cool that he's got that in his collection.
Yeah, and then still I sort of credit American Splendor in a way for Judah Friedlander getting on 30 Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of people remember him from Splendor, rather, because he was prominent in Splendor playing me, compared to like other movies like Starsky and Hutch or Wet Hot Summer, a few others where he was only in a few scenes. But I sort of credit Splendor for him getting on 30 Rock, where he was a regular character.
I'd agree. Outside of Giamatti, I think that Judah is the breakout character for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he's such a lovable character. It fits well,
And then I'm going to have to go to IMDb because I still wonder whatever happened to Bob and Sherry.
I know they just did some Succession, an HBO show, so they're still working with HBO, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't slowed down a bit, it looks like, you know what I mean? They found family at the HBO people, and you know what I mean?
Right, and I've also imagined, because Harvey wrote enough material over the years, including stuff that Joyce Brabner did posthumously, to put several movies together. And I've often imagined either a sequel to Splendor or a television series based on Splendor, based on like some of the other stuff Harvey had done. And he even wrote like a series about a co-worker who had dealt with PTSD when he was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And that would be a movie in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that Harvey takes a writing credit on the film, and I always assumed it was almost like based on characters but I think he was a little deeper, like a legitimate film writer, a script writer on it too.
Yeah, as I said, he did enough material to do several movies, but then again, Joyce Brabner pretty much owns the rights to everything, and she tends to be very, confronting and very aggressive, very demanding, very confrontational,
Excessive of the
and
material.
very eccentric when it comes to this.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Because Joyce is a very hard person to get along with. And even some people from the movie didn't want to deal with her.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can kind of vibe with that. Was, even in the movie, she comes off a little bit that way, and I'm sure they polished it up to make her more friendly for the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's one reason why I don't communicate with Joyce Brabner unless I have to.
Yeah.
Because of the attitude she has. I mean, she always makes issue of my loud voice.
Oh, really?
One time they scheduled a screening of Splendor up at the Peace Park, which is basically next to the Coventry Road Library up at the Coventry neighborhood. They're like a street fair. They're dedicating Pekar Park, which is in front of the Coventry Yard building.
Yeah.
It used to be the Arabica coffee house there, but now Grog Shop is there. And they did a dedication of Pekar Park back in 2013, I think. 2013 or 2014, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And Joyce made issue of my voice. I mean, for some reason, Joyce and I never really got along.
Yeah.
And even when we were at Sundance, I mean, Joyce basically wanted to keep me separate from her, Harvey, and Danielle.
Yeah.
I mean, Joyce tends to be very bossy.
Well, even in the film, I mean, films always try to paint people in great pictures, and even in the film, you get an idea that she was just kind of a fan that seen the magnitude of what it could be, came into the picture, and then kind of, I wouldn't say manipulated a situation or anything, but almost kind of puppeteered what she wanted out of the situation. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
Harvey went for the ride.
Her way or the highway, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. And Harvey went for the ride. Now,
yeah.
The younger girl, Danielle was her name?
Danielle Batone.
She's
like in her 30s now, I believe.
Yeah, I think she wasn't she doing comics too, or no?
I think she might have, yeah. And then Joyce did a comic called Real War Stories.
Oh, geez. Real horror stories?
I remember posting to a Facebook retail group because I went to a Savers and they had like a bunch of copies of Joyce Brabner's book, Real War Stories, on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I had to take a picture of it and post it to my page and to the Facebook retail page. I can't believe how Savers ended up with a bunch of copies of Joyce Brabner's Real War Stories first edition comic.
That's where they were distributed from. That's where she got her deal from, Savers.
I'm sort of guessing, but it was like years after she published it. I don't know how Savers got all these first edition copies of it, but I got a feeling somebody must have snapped them up later on and resold them online.
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah, because she's still around those parts, right? Did she get out of?
Yeah, she's still living on Overlook Road in Cleveland Heights. The house that Harvey and Joyce bought back in the 90s.
And she owns all the American Splendor and everything.
She pretty much controls anything having to do with Harvey Pekar.
Yeah. Well,
controlling as Joyce Brabner is.
I bet it's weird that it seems she's difficult because I feel like if she was almost easier to work with, there's so much new stuff that could be done with the material, the content. They could reboot it. They could probably reboot American Splendor for like a new time in a way. You know what I mean?
I mean, and yeah, make it like, even though it's based on real stories.
Yeah.
I mean, they could like still set it in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but have a different cast, or even move the time frame and change the names of all the characters, but it would still be Harvey's story.
Yeah, I mean, like when they said like the year we did the cancer year, the movie year, were those all the real issues, or was that just for the movie?
Harvey did have lymphoma.
Oh yeah, that definitely. But like in the movie, they have like like a graphic novel based off of the cancer year. Then they have another graphic novel.
Yeah, they actually did do the cancer year graphic novel.
Okay.
I wasn't in that. It was just basically Harvey, Joyce, and people they were dealing with due to cancer, because Joyce had Harvey. I remember when Harvey wasn't feeling well from the cancer.
Yeah.
And that was around the time that Harvey stopped going to bookstores and flea markets. Was when he had that first bout of cancer.
Yeah.
And from there, he was dealing with it for a couple of years, and then eventually he got over it. Then it came back a second time, like around the time the movie came out. And then he died of cancer. The lymphoma came back around the time he died, because how he died was he fell out of bed.
Okay. Like fall out of bed and took a bump, or
I don't know. He fell. Apparently, he must have died in his sleep, and he fell out of the bed.
Interesting. Well, so it eventually came back. So the cancer that is celebrated that got destroyed in the movie eventually came back to get him. Unfortunately, that sucks.
Yeah, it came back to get him twice. I mean, it was like a minor flare up in 2003, it was like right after we toured for the movie, like right after when it went to New York and LA, in August of 2003. I think it was like maybe September or October.
Yeah.
Cancer came back for Harvey. And then right before he died in 2010, it came back. Because Harvey hadn't been feeling well in the days before he passed.
Yeah. If Harvey never passed away, where do you think he'd be at nowadays with everything?
He'd still be writing books.
Yeah.
I mean, Harvey would still be writing books until the day. I mean, just like in 2010, he was writing till the day he died.
Yeah.
Because he was like in the middle of a story when he passed away, and I think Joyce Brabner eventually finished it.
Yeah. I mean, we really could have got it if he was still kicking it, dude. We probably would have got a TV show, because the content, the material's perfect.
Yeah.
Or it's like it's kind of like it's like Married with Children without being married with the children. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Harvey would be 83 years old if he were still alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think Joyce is like in her late 70s, early 80s herself.
Yeah.
Because Joyce is around Harvey's age.
So knowing Harvey so well, you think Paul Giamatti did a bang-up job, an exceptional job?
He did an excellent job with Harvey Pekar.
Yeah. Now, Harvey always comes off kind of like a grumpy, unhappy dude. Was that more of a shtick?
Yeah, I mean, basically, how I've seen it, I've always seen this observation with the American Splendor movie. Harvey always took a pessimistic side to things, while I always took the optimistic side. And there have been a lot of people that have seen the movie. They liked my character better than Harvey's character.
Yeah.
Not.
Harvey's character reminds me of like a Charles Bukowski character a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It'd be interesting to see.
I mean, he always called himself a curmudgeon.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, I mean, I think the thing that works really well is the fact that because he was so pessimistic and you're so optimistic, I mean, the dual, the yin and yang, so to speak. I think that's, I mean, that was one of the things I loved in the movie, was the fact that, you guys were friends and you guys had, very different ways of looking at the world, but were still friends, which is true with a lot of friendships that, and I really like that. I thought that was a good thing.
Yeah, because I knew that, both Harvey and Joyce have dealt with depression. And sometimes that reflects in the stories that are in the comic book.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And then Harvey, I think, went through 2 or 3 divorces before he met Joyce.
Yeah. Yeah, depression and mental health is such a I think everybody deals with it. It's such a big thing now. Like I could see American Splendor being like an animated Netflix show. You know what I mean? Like
Or
there's so much.
HBO Max show, maybe HBO Max, because
Yeah.
HBO put out the film, and so it could be like 8. If it were to become a series, it'll probably end up on HBO Max, which will become just Max next month.
Did Harvey ever comment?
Apparently, they're merging HBO Max with Discovery Channel screening and Warner Brothers streaming. So it's just going to become Max.
Yeah. Oh, well, that everything's because it's all going to be one. I think WWE just got bought by the same company that owns UFC, so that's what it's kind of corporation world. Mm-hmm. Did Harvey ever comment on his opinion of how the catching on? It's kind of like when you're that. The glass is half empty type of vibe, and then positive things start happening. It's funny, you'll see people that are kind of like gloomy, but positive starts happening, and it's like a weird thing in their like personality, kind of. Did you see any changes?
As I said, Harvey saw the glass half empty. I saw the glass half full. And although Harvey had already denied it, I still think that the Letterman shows have helped his career, although Harvey keeps denying it. He keeps putting the books out.
Yeah.
The movie deal had been made. The movie had been a success in the way it is. I mean, it was never a true Hollywood blockbuster, but it did well as far as an indie film, even though it was line cinema.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big deal. Like that was that was kind of, like I said, when I started making films, and it was a time when like more artsy films were kind of getting, like, you'd have your Hollywood films, but the artsy films were coming into play, and that was definitely one. And it was, I loved it. Now you got to spend a little time on set with it. What was that like?
It was good. I enjoyed working with the cast.
Yeah, and you were coming from, of course, the Killer Nerds film before this.
Yeah, because I made Killer Nerd in '90, and I made Bride of Killer Nerd in '91.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, I sort of like took a break from showbiz for a while, mainly because, one, I was dealing with issues, and two, Wayne and Mark were having creative differences.
Yeah.
We went on to do Girlfriends, which is basically a lesbian love story. And then I got back with Wayne in '99 to do Town.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like Wayne was the creative end, and Mark Bosco basically took care of business. And sometimes Mark Bosco and I have had differences.
Yeah. Well, it's tough to be business.
That got in the way with Wayne and Mark's, relationship with making movies together, and that ended after Girlfriend.
Yeah, it's tough. Business can be tough in creative endeavors. You know what I mean? But there got to be that part, unfortunately. Yeah. I heard that there might be maybe a third venture into Killer Nerdville, maybe.
Yeah, we're talking about it, but as I said, I won't be as acting as, Wayne is still thinking about it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I would not be like, I would be like Harold Kunkel at this age, 65 years old. But I'd always imagined imaging a killer nerd with a much younger person playing Harold Kunkel.
Yeah. You'd have to do a Son of Killer Nerd type vibe to keep with the
bride. Yeah, that was one thing, because I've had people thinking about making movie scripts and sequels to Killer Nerd, although it's been 33 years since I did the first Killer Nerd.
Yeah. Yeah, and anybody out there who's never seen the Killer Nerd films, go check them out. I know Troma released them a while back. I
Yeah,
think
and
they
then
might.
Wayne Allen Harold bought the rights back from Troma, and they were reissued on Blu-ray and VHS.
Oh, okay, word. Yeah, that's cool that you got the rights back, because I've heard. Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, and we made something like 500 limited edition Blu-rays, and maybe like 100 or two, maybe like 100 limited edition VHSs of each movie.
That's good, because if I've heard Troma isn't the easiest people to get your film back from, and without the permission and without the rights to be able to do it, there's nothing you can do. So that's great they got the rights.
Right, because it was like I think it was like right after we went to a horror movie convention in Hackensack, New Jersey, back in '93. This was, at Harvey Dickinson University.
Yeah.
And I was driving, and I managed to drive my piece of crap Thunderbird all the way from Cleveland over almost all the way to New York City.
Yeah.
The Hackensack's across the river from New York City. And we stayed at this Best Western hotel there. And I'm just fortunate the car made it there and back without overheating.
Oh yeah.
Because I was having a little trouble. I was having a little trouble with that car at the time, but I just managed to get it there and back. But then again, around the time I was like handing Killer Nerd buttons out to everybody going to this convention, and then there was like another time where I was sort of fooled, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
At that convention, there was a guy carrying a camera, like it was a VHS camera, like it was not a professional one, but it was like a consumer grade VHS camcorder. It happened to have an MTV sticker attached to it, and I honestly thought that it was somebody from MTV doing a spot about the convention, and knowing that I was there as the Killer Nerd. I had honestly thought that they were going to film me. I did approach the cameraman, but then again, the cameraman started using choice words toward me, if you know what I mean.
Really?
Yeah, he was asking me like sexual questions and stuff,
Jesus.
which meant that he wasn't from MTV.
Yeah, it's from Howard Stern.
And I did explain to him how I was on MTV in the late '80s, and that led to Killer Nerd.
Yeah.
But I mean, I honestly thought that he was with MTV because of that camcorder
Right.
he was holding.
But
he actually worked for I think he actually worked for a public access cable show in New Jersey.
Okay. He can't even air those questions on his own show, that animal.
Right. And I think he might have turned on the camera without even putting a tape in.
I have little faith in this person. I
yeah, because Wayne was sort of warning me about it.
Okay.
I had honestly thought that it was actually somebody from MTV. It wasn't.
You looking to do? I know you had that. That's kind of a foul experience. I'm sure it was just a small one in a rather good weekend. But you looking
to do? Otherwise it was just a regional show.
Yeah.
It's almost like, say, if somebody from MTV were to come to Cinema Wasteland in Strongsville, Ohio.
Yeah.
With a camera saying MTV on it. It'd be the same thing.
We need more with everything slowing down with the COVID and stuff. Hopefully, we got more conventions popping up. We need to see Toby at more conventions. I
know I'm going to be at Cinema Wasteland I think it's going to be in October up at the Best Western in Strongsville, Ohio.
Hell yeah! You got a booth
I remember
up there?
Late September, early October, but they usually have one show in the spring and one show in the fall.
Yeah, very cool. How's Ohio for a horror audience? I know they're I know they always got the Juggalo gatherings over that way. I know big crossover. Mm-hmm. Ohio's the spot. I like Ohio. We were in Indiana, which is close enough a couple years ago, and it worked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as far as 20 years of American Splendor, my God, 20 years. And I don't know if it's got any, if they're giving it an anniversary 4K or anything like. They definitely should.
Yeah, I don't know if I know
It's
the
on.
they need to release it on. I know you could watch the movie on HBO Max.
Yeah, it's on HBO Max.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did like a 20th anniversary Blu-ray of it.
That'd be cool.
But then again, people are getting away from buying physical media altogether.
Yeah.
As I said, like Netflix is discontinuing mailing DVDs.
I seen that. I didn't even know they still did that.
Right, because I was a customer of them since 2005.
Yeah.
And I still get DVDs in the mail from them.
Very cool.
Basically, I'd get the disc, I would rip a copy of it for myself and then mail it back.
I support that. I remember like at one point they were you had to like choose whether or not you want to do the mail or you wanted to do the digital.
I do it both.
Yeah.
They wanted to split the two companies,
Yeah.
but they decided to keep, they called the disc version DVD.com. And this is like the 25th anniversary of Netflix mailing DVDs. And they're deciding that they're going to end this in September.
I wonder how popular the mailing of. I know you said you do it, but I wonder how popular it is of mailing them out.
I think they're down to like 1.5 million customers for the mail DVDs, when it used to be like 60 million at its peak.
I remember when Netflix, like Redbox, came in and put a hurting on Netflix because you could just go to the gas station and get the movie,
or grocery store. And
or
even Redbox is shutting down a lot of their machines.
And then the digital is, it's funny because like digital kills Redbox, Redbox kills mail in Netflix, but then it comes back for like the revenge to kill it in the overall.
Right. Yeah, Netflix killed Blockbuster, if you know what I mean.
So sad. The video store, so great, dude. The video store was it. So
Streaming
sad.
killed the video star, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. You got that right.
Streaming killed the video star. Streaming killed the video star.
I want to get you into the studio, man, and record Streaming Killed the Video Star.
Store.
Because it's legit. It's horrifying, but it's legit, and it was so fun though going into the old VHS rental store back.
And I got a feeling that eventually the studios are no longer going to make physical DVDs or Blu-rays.
Yeah, I think so. Once they figure out a special features thing, which you can easily do, we do it on our Patreon. We offer special. So if we can do it, they can do it. And then once they figure out a way to do extras with the movie, it's over. It's done.
Right. Because that's the thing with the DVDs is the extras. And I still have a feeling that HBO Video will probably put a 20th anniversary version of Splendor, because that disc had never been released to Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And in August would be the 20th. I think August would be the 20th anniversary of the theatrical release. And then I think it was like February or March of 2004 that the DVD came out. The tape and the DVD came out.
You know, if we were living in an age of physical media still, as much as we'd like to be, you would probably have gotten an American Splendor graphic novel. Like I have a graphic novel of the movie, I think it is. It's like that big. You could have got the DVD or the Blu-ray or the 4K disc in a book. You know what I mean? There's so many cool things you can do with marketing and like special editions with stuff like that. It's unfortunate to see it all go away, and it probably will.
Yeah, my last sip's a cold coffee.
Cold coffee's my fave. Well, I mean, we're approaching our cold cup of coffee too. You know what I mean? This was a good time, Toby, man.
I'm in the October of my years, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Well, Toby, it's always a pleasure having you on the show, man. It's great.
Yeah.
Every time I see you, man, I love seeing you. It's great. Good to see you.
I love seeing you too also.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Glad I could take part today.
Yeah. You know, if anybody out there hasn't seen American Splendor, now is the time to see it. Go see it. You'll love it. And Killer Nerd and Bride of Killer Nerd peep in you too.
And Polly.
My favorite documentary of all time, Genuine Nerd. Go
Yeah.
go grab
Yeah,
that up.
yeah, I mean, as I said, Genuine Nerd, you got the scene from Aberration Boulevard where I'm in a diaper, and that was a movie that Wayne Wayne ended up scrapping because it came out around the because this is around the time that I was working on Splendor, and I
Yeah.
did not want people to get any ideas. That's why I decided not to do any more baby or diaper roles on the movie.
Yeah.
I dressed as a baby. I dressed as a New Year's baby in one MTV segment that didn't air. And
Yeah.
this is up at Chapel Hill Mall in Akron, Ohio. And then there was another one where I was dressed as a baby in Killer Nerd.
Yeah.
And they dressed me in a baby again as Aberration Boulevard, where a prostitute is paid to change my diaper. And that's on the Genuine Nerd DVD. But it did not, but Wayne decided not to do Aberration Boulevard, where it's a movie about a more eccentric, similar to Townies.
Yeah.
But the other scene involved me and a donkey, and that's another embarrassing scene, which is another reason why Wayne scrapped it.
Wow, we got to bring you in for like a Killer Nerd screening. You, Wayne, and it'll be fun. Do a Q&A. It'll be fun. That'd be good times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Toby, always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talk to you. We'll talk to you soon. You have a good day over there.
Okay, and have a nice night.
You too. Talk soon, and let me. If when you need moving stuff, I'm not BSing, dude. I'm ready. I'm down. It'll be a fun trip. It'll be a fun trip.
Keep me in touch too.
Okay, we'll get you back on some more shows, and we spent Christmas and
yeah. Let me know next time you do a show.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I thank you very much, man.
Okay, have a nice day.
You too, Toby. Talk soon. And ladies and gentlemen, that was our great friend, Toby Radloff, stopping in at the BoomBastic headquarters to talk to you boys, Alexander, Machi, about, a bunch of different things. We had some physical media talk up in there. We had some Killer Nerd, Bride of Killer Nerd. We talked about the MTV stuff, but mainly we got into American Splendor. Why? Turns 20 this year, 20th anniversary. Again, I gotta say, if you've never seen American Splendor, it's on HBO Max now for Frizzle. If you have the subscription, definitely check it out and peep it. I think you'll dig it. Paul Giamatti at some of his best. Yes, Alexander.
Also, I mean, it's turning 20 now. Wait one more year, it'll be 21. You can take it out drinking with you.
My goodness, you stopped my talking to add that input. My goodness, that was horrifying.
Hey, come on. That's why you have me on.
You're lucky I love you, bruv. You're lucky I love you, bruv.
Hey, when I got a joke, I gotta throw it in.
But Toby's the man. I love Toby. Ever since the first time I chatted with him a few years back, he was on another show, I think the Shock Treatment show on the network. For anybody out there, I believe Shock Treatment episodes are still roaming. So on the audio podcast ways, if you go look up a show called Shock Treatment with Mel and Maddie, episode The Genuine Nerd with Toby Radloff. There's also a good Alex Hawk interview near that too. But yeah, that's that. If you want to learn a little more about that and still support the BoomBastic Meads, that's a way to do it. You know what I mean? But yeah, Toby's the man. Toby's going to be in the upcoming Wicked Hollows film, which is great. And I would love to get Toby out here for a screening. I know this year we're going to be getting back into some of our events. Teaser for everybody out there. And as you get this episode, it'll probably even closer to events, but it'd be cool to do a nice screening and bring in Wayne and Toby and do that whole deal, because Killer Nerd is one of my favorite shot on video horror films of all time. I'd probably say Redneck Zombies and Killer Nerd are it. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a couple other ones in there, but those ones always popped in my head right off the bat that I love. And I love Toby. It's hard not to love Toby, the sweetest dude, so generous with his time, and it's always a pleasure having him on. And we got many more stuff to do with Tobe, including moving. We're starting a moving company, and we'll be killing it. Like I said, 4 years of moving furniture during the summers, brother. And I can
If you
do
ever
just
need to move furniture, Mr. Matthew Fisher is the man for you. He's got the looks, he's got the height, he's got the muscles.
he's got it all, ladies and gentlemen. So, again, I know Tobe's not here, but Tobe, if you're listening, much love, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Alexander
Always.
Hawk, much love to you, my brother. Always a pleasure. And for everybody out there listening, much love to y'all. We got nothing but love for you, baby. If you enjoyed this episode, go check out more of these episodes for free wherever you listen to this one. If you want to support the cause a little deeper, we got the BoomBastic streaming Patreon page. That's right, BoomBastic with 2 O's streaming at patreon.com. On there, you can catch, I know once a month right now you're catching this episode for free in the video form, but every BoomBastic episode you'll be able to catch for free in the physical form on the Patreon. And the nice first perk ever, $5 perk, very nice. All our podcasting stuff where you catch all our podcasts in video form, uncut video form, and all types of other goodies. And if you go up to that $10 tier, we call it a pier, not a tier, because you look off, you cover the top of your forehead so you can see further, and you go, yeah. $10 brings in a lot of our film stuff. We got 20 films in the digital up there for you to peek at your leisure, and the tiers go up higher, but those are the ones to go with. And we got nothing but love for you. You know what I mean? We're not pushing no Patreon, y'all. Not pushing no Patreon, y'all, folks. If you want to join up. A lot of cool stuff. I would tell you right now that the 420 episode just got up there, but by the time you guys get this, 420 is probably a few months back. But it still should be there. So go take a peek. And it will be there. What am I saying? But for Shizzle, a lot of kudos stuff. Alex, you want to say anything in closing about Tobe or American Splendor?
Not pretty much. I said everything. Just like I'm like I said before, American Splendor, I think, is I know when they did like the Ang Lee Incredible Hulk, a lot of people gave kind of issues because they did the kind of like the panels and all that to make it feel more like a comic book. Um, that kind of style, I think, was a lot better utilized in American Splendor. It's different, a different style, but with bringing in with different illustrated versions of Harvey Pekar, where his future wife shows up and he's in the different places in the bus station waiting for her.
Yeah.
I really loved that style and the fact that it's definitely a film that it doesn't have explosions, you don't have anyone in capes, but it is a movie based on the comic book, and the comic book was this guy's life and and the trials and tribulations he went through, and that's why people gravitated towards him, because it was a slice of Americana. And as Toby said, he was a pessimist, and he always looked at the world as half empty.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think the way that we as a society can kind of look at the world in a better light is to see it from the light of someone who actually has even a darker view of the world than you do. Then you can see that things might not be as bad as you think. I mean, look at Harvey Pekar. I'm not doing as bad as he.
Harvey Pekar, yeah. Harvey Pekar was, I think people love him because, like, even though he's a kind of a grumpy figure, I think like he reminds me of uncles I have. You know what I mean? I think there's a place for the glasses half empty people. You know what I mean? Who's to say if they're right or wrong? You know what I mean? But I definitely do feel like everybody's probably got a Harvey in their life, and that's why you're so easy to kind of fall in line with appreciating him in the film, because kind of like, well, why would you want to be around a mopey dude or whatever? But it's like, yeah, he's got the mopiness to him, but there's something else there. There's the personality is there, and it's kind of makes it the overall deal, you know, which is very cool. But Toby Radloff, man, I love him. I tell you, every time we got him on, I can't stop saying how much I love that dude. He's great.
Yeah,
Always a pleasure.
I think this is now his, let's see, fourth time on a episode that we have been involved with. I mean,
Yeah.
you got Shock Treatment, you got this one, and you got two Christmas episodes.
Yeah, 2 Christmas specials. He's become a staple in the Christmas deal. He's the staple that holds the wrapping paper to the actual gift, to be truthful with you. You know what I mean? But,
He's the Scott's tape.
he's a good man. He's in the hollows.
Classic prison. We got.
He holds it all together, baby. He holds it all together. You know what I mean? So, you know, with that being said, we thank y'all for listening. We appreciate it. And we'll catch y'all on the next episode of the BoomBastic Cast.